So this video is aimed towards anybody that's, part of a prescribed burn association, or like I am, or they also need some wildfire protection and adverse terrain. Where I live here in this part of Canada, our terrain is pretty flat, but it's soft. And then where it's not soft is where we have a lot of glacial till boulders and glacial erratics. So and we have a lot of brush. We have a combination of open prairie, natural prairie, which you don't get much of anymore in Western Canada, and then little thickets of poplar forest with oak trees. I think that pretty much sums it up. And we get a lot of low-lying areas or wetland kind of areas. So the use of an ATV in wildfire fighting is pretty much essential. You could have the best four-wheel drive truck and you're still going to be stuck. It doesn't matter what size or anything like that, you're still going to be stuck. This is one of the best combinations. The next best thing is obviously a side-by-side, but not all of us can afford it or necessarily always have the room for one. And their pricing on UTVs is getting absolutely ridiculous. So this is a setup that's used by many fire departments in this area. Our area fire department has 4 units in particular. They have one mounted on sort of a combination rescue truck / grass fire truck. I think it's got maybe a 150-gallon tank on it, and then it's got a bunch of compartments for tools and stuff like that, as well, their jaws to life and all that. And it's got one big compartment in the very back where they have a ramp that folds out, and they have a quad on there with the same setup, 25-gallon tank, 1-inch pump, and a piece of garden hose. And the nozzle varies from one unit to the other because it's just a matter of what they can raise for money in that, because it's a pretty lightly populated area. Some fire departments have a UTV. Other fire departments have a 6x6 UTV. Some of them have a 6x6 quad, like the Polaris Big Boss. Nature Conservancy of Canada is prescribed burning out here, and they got a mixture of both. And the 6x6 Polaris quads, the big bosses, especially the newer ones where they have full independent suspension and they're shaft driven, are probably the most mobile. Turning them around is like turning around a battleship because of the extra axle and all that. But they are amazing what they will go over and through. So anyway, this is my setup. I wanted to show how I've got it set up. Now, I'm no welder fabricator, as you can see. One of my biggest problems is trying to stabilize the tank on the rear rack of the quad. Now, I don't have the straps holding it down. This is just purely for demonstration purposes, but usually I have a 1-inch strap there and a 1-inch strap there, and that seems to be fairly good. But the one problem I have is the side-to-side movement, so I'm hoping that maybe some friends of mine that can do fabrication that can come up with something that could, just block it from side to side movement, like a piece of metal or angle iron or something that fits in here. Now, I build this kind of like a fire truck in a lot of ways. So you've got your tank to pump valve, and this is your line running to the pump. Now, this is the best place that I could put the pump because of its size and its weight. It's a 1-inch pump. It's a Power Fist from Princess Auto. Harbor Freight sells a similar pump as well. I think they're made by BE of Canada. They're just made in China, or at least the engines are. The pumps themselves, like this end of the pump, are quite good. The engine, they change the design every now and then. A few years back, I had one that was 98 cc. Now this one's 79. And they've gone to a slightly different design. They aren't the greatest engine, but they're fairly good. They got a decent amount of power, and even if your gas is old, they'll run. And so that's partly why I've been using them, and then they're just more affordable. So what I've done to the tank, because this is just your standard 25-gallon sprayer tank, and those little electric pumps, they can produce a decent amount of flow. There's 5, 7. I've even seen some that were 10 gallon per minute. But the thing is, you can't draft from a stream to refill it. And sometimes the volume isn't the greatest. And, but they do have pressure, and they can shoot a pretty good stream fairly far. So anyway, the modifications I've done to my tank are on the cap here, because you don't want the water sloshing on you, and you always want to have a good vent. So I bored this out, and they put a, oh, what do you call it? I put in a bulkhead here, and then that way I put this little hose down here, and then that way I don't have water sloshing out and giving me a wet bum. Yeah, that could be pretty annoying if you're out there all damn day. Then I put in a bulkhead that just barely fit. If you can find a tank that's got more of a flat side for where you put your bulkhead, that's the best. But I just made this work and it didn't leak, so I was pretty happy. So this bulkhead is 1 inch on, like 1 inch for the suction end of it. I can't remember what the diameter of all this is, but these are pretty easily available. You can use a hole saw and a drill, or you could even use a Dremel or even a hand file, because it's just plastic. So then I put, of course, the right angle part on here. I had a nipple in here, and then a right angle, like a street elbow. And then, of course, another 1 inch nipple. And then I put in this 1 inch ball valve. It's a little bit frozen because this was outside. And then I put in a 1 inch cam lock here. So I use cam lock fittings for a lot of these bigger applications like this. They're somewhat universal. They're easy to use. There's no threading or anything like that. So it's 1 inch that feeds into the pump. So obviously with this thing on here, you can only get onto the quad from that side. And then 1 inch right into the pump. And then from the pump end here, now I normally have carriage bolts that hold this down. I had to figure out something. I couldn't bolt it down here or there. And I want to make it so it's detachable, because obviously once you get past the burning season, like come about June or so, then everything kind of greens up here, May, June. So then you usually don't get too many wildfires then, and you can't prescribe burn after that amount of time. So again, a cam lock, female cam lock here, and then a 45-degree street elbow, I guess, and then cam lock on the discharge end, so you can still use it as a 1 inch pump if you need. And then what I do is I take a female cam lock, that's what this is, and that's 1 inch as well. And then I put in a reducer bushing down to 3/4 inch. And then I put the garden hose adapter. So it'll be 1 inch NPT on this side. And then it's 3/4 inch garden hose, or that'll be 3/4 inch NPT on that side. So it ties right into the reducer bushing. And then this is a garden hose adapter, garden hose thread. And then I've got a piece of 5/8 Flexzilla. And you can actually order Flexzilla lengths, I think as short as 5 feet from Amazon. And this is a 10-foot piece. And it's more than sufficient. Sometimes I wish it was a little bit shorter. Sometimes I wish it was a little bit longer. So it works out not too bad. And then on the end of it, I got this from Home Hardware. This ball valve, I can't remember what make. Oh, there we go. It's a Melnor. And you can also get these on Amazon. And it's just a simple ball valve. It's almost like on a fire hose. And then a bullseye nozzle, so you can limit the amount of volume that you're putting out. So basically all it is as you squeeze it down, you thread it down like that, and it squeezes down on that piece of rubber there, and then it reduces the volume that you put out, because you want to try and maximize how much water you got. It's only 25 gallons, so you always want to make sure that you can use the bare minimum. If you really need to dump water, then you can dump water, but that works the best. So the downsides of this are pretty obvious. It's a smaller size tank. So you're only getting 25 gallons out of that tank. Depending on how stiff you want to make your suspension, I guess you could probably go up to 30. But you know, if it's imperial gallons, the best way to figure out how much weight you're carrying is if the tank is rated in imperial gallons, then it's 10 pounds per gallon. So this is a 25 gallon tank. And I think this one was rated in imperial gallons. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they're US gallons. And so, you know, you're looking at 250 pounds, then I'm about 200 to 215, somewhere around there. It varies. And so, you know, then you're looking at over 400 pounds on the back of your quad there. And then this pump is about 25 to 30 pounds. I can't remember what it is. And so that's why it's on the front rack. Like, there is a space on here. It's meant for one of those little electric sprayer pumps. Like I said, they, for the most part, they do fairly well, but if you get a more intense fire, you're going to want to be able to put more volume down. And plus, with a gasoline pump, I can draft from a stream. But yeah, there are some indented little threaded pieces here, so you could put one of those little pumps on. There's some here on the back here for maybe putting a hose holder, a wand holder kind of thing. Obviously, I never bothered with that, and the pump makes too much vibration. I think it would crack the plastic pretty quickly. So this is my setup. It's going to change a little bit because I've got a new pump. I haven't been able to use it yet for this application, and I got to get it the carb serviced. But I got it used on Facebook Marketplace. It had hardly any hours on it, and it's called a Honda WX10. It is light as a feather. It's still 1 inch. So you can see I even put the little angled suction piece on there. All cam lock. And I think I gauged it. It wasn't running quite the best because I think the carb is dirty. It sat for too long. It's a 4-stroke. Honda only makes 4-stroke pumps now, so it's easy to start. This is your engine fill, or your engine oil fill, sorry. And you can check your oil here as well. And that's also where you dump the oil out when you want to change the oil. So it's kind of interesting. And then this is obviously your gas tank. You have to prime the carb. There's a little priming bulb underneath. But I mean, you know, there's a big weight savings there versus the Princess Auto Pump. Only thing is it's about double the price. It's around 600 Canadian or so. And so my intention is I'm going to take it to a small engine place because the carb on it's so damn tiny. And I'm going to get that all serviced and cleaned out. And then that's what I'm hoping to use on the quad here. I've heard that they put out pretty good pressure, those little guys, 50 PSI. And you can run, you know, a couple hundred feet of hose if you need to, like garden hose or something. I'm probably not going to need to do that, but, you know, at least you have that capability. And like I said, being able to draft is everything. You can either go and refill the tank, or you can even lay out a whole bunch of lay flat hose or garden hose and do your mop up or whatever needs to be done. You know, obviously this is, I use this for doing my little, I do a little bit of a prescribed burn throughout my backyard every spring and sometimes in the fall, just depending what the weather's like. And so wherever I can save weight is great. But I've also wanted to put a bit of a hose reel on there, especially for when I'm mopping up. And I recently saw like you can get a spring rewind hose reel. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'll probably go and put a gated Y on here, like some people call it a splitter, but in fire service we call it a gated Y. And then I'll have one hose that goes to the reel, and then I'll have the hose that goes to the whip. And I want to try that out. Just depends what I can afford because they are a little bit pricey. So that's kind of the areas that I want to improve on. I'm going to talk to some guys in my group there about making the tank more stable on the rack there. That's kind of my biggest problem. And I kind of want to have something other than big carriage bolts to hold the pump down. You know, I just used what I had. I'm no welder, fabricator, even a woodworker, unfortunately. So that's just how I managed with this. So, but it works. You just got to always pay attention to how much water you got. And with a rotomold tank like this, you can always see what your water level is as you pump it down. And I think I've had it, I've had this actually running full blast, full throttle with that same nozzle. And I think a 50-foot length of this lay flat hose, this 3/4 inch sort of forestry hose. And I think I got 15 minutes to a tank with it running full blast. And that's with that little orifice all the way open. So that isn't too bad. There are different nozzles you can use. Sometimes this doesn't seem like enough. And then you want to go and use something that's got maybe more of a fog stream to it. It all depends. But you go anything different than that nozzle and you're going to use more water. So one thing I was thinking about is like this one's a wand. Come on, it's stuck in here. So this is just an aluminum wand. It's very light. It's got a valve on it too. And you can actually take this off and then put like a different garden hose nozzle on. Like this is just obviously a sprayer. So, you know, it gives you a little more reach, a little bit further away from the quad if the fire is particularly intense. But the way the fire departments utilize these out here is that with 4 quads, depending on the severity of the fire, if it's wind driven, etc., you know, you'll have one quad come in, hit as much as he can with the fire, then another one comes in behind him while they go back to the tanker or the pumper to refill their tanks. So it's a fairly good system. I actually saw them using that system north of here, kind of in a swampy bush area a few years back when we actually had a dry year. And they got a great system, actually. You know, advantages to having a bigger quad are obviously you could have a bigger tank. If need be, you could have a bigger pump. These are fairly sufficient for most stuff. But a side-by-side, like with our Prescribed Burn Association, we applied for a grant and we spec'd out a Can-Am Defender 6x6. Nature Conservancy here has 2 of them. And they're outfitted with, I think, 100-gallon tanks on them. And then they've got a 2-inch high-pressure pump. And it's basically the same pump as this one here. Just I know the one that's got it is from Princess Auto, and one of the employees there who looks after all the prescribed burning equipment and that, he fabricated a whole skid for it, and he used that Princess Auto pump, and he said it's been really good for them. And it's made by BE. The only junky part can sometimes be the engine, but you can even get a variant of this where it's got the Honda engine. It's just going to cost you that much more. So my idea was eventually that once I can afford a side by each, as some of the guys in Newfoundland call them, I want to put this pump on. This is a Honda GXH 50. I think they're 2.5, 3 horsepower. They go at about 6,000 or 7,000 RPM, just like these little guys. It's another 4-stroke engine. This one also needs carburetor work. And it's got a Keen engineering pump. And these guys usually make pumps meant for gold sluicing, but they produce great pressure. I think this one maxes out at around 70 or 72 when I did the math on it. It's an 1.5 inch suction, so it obviously won't work with the tank on the current fire skid that I've got. But it comes out at the threaded end at 1.25 inch, which is a bit of odd size in firefighting. But I've necked it down to 1 inch. And I would have it feed into a manifold where I would have, you know, like a 3/4 inch hose reel. And I would also have a couple of 3/4 inch whip lines, if not at least one whip line. And an interesting thing with this pump is that because it's made for placer gold mining, like sluicing, like you see on that stupid show on Discovery Channel, it's got like a little what do you call it? A little garden hose output here for doing your cleanup and all that. And that would be great actually just for even hooking up to a whip or a hose reel kind of thing, a 3/4 inch hose reel. And then you could always leave this for running a larger line like a 1 inch forestry or something like that. So this one will go in at some point this year to get serviced and cleaned up. And same with the little guy. I really want to put them to work because, well, they're Honda and they're both nice and light. Like, pick this up with one arm, no problem. Try and do that with the Princess Auto one. It's unless you're a Superman or something, it's got a bit of girth to it. So, but I mean, it's all in what you're willing to pay. So, the engine I bought a Princess Auto actually. It was in their surplus department. It was missing the gas caps. They knocked like $100 off the price. And I had a wad of money in my pocket that was burning a great big hole. So I bought the engine, and I had an old Honda pump that ran the same engine, but the engine was foobar, the pump was shot, everything was done on it. So I saved the mounting base, and then the pump kit came with the carrying handle, and I put the pump all together. Now I'm just waiting to get it serviced and all that. And this guy will obviously go in the quad. This could go on a truck skid, a small truck skid. Like I said before, trucks don't do well here. They can't go very far. But I mean, you can always put it like in the back of a 1/4 ton or something like that. And you just, fight from the side of the road if you have to. But this is going to be the primary thing. So, yeah, if you've got a 6x6, man, you're lucky. But yeah, so like I was saying, make sure if you're when you're selecting the tank, that's the biggest thing, is selecting the tank. See how big of a bulkhead you can put on it. This is 1 inch. It would have been nice to go up to 1.5 inches so I could use that Keen pump, but you can't really fit it anywhere. So, pay attention, always look at what kind of tank do you got. How much space do you have for putting on a bulkhead? Like, this is the drain for the tank for when it's used as a normal sprayer tank. Maybe you're lucky and you can fabricate with aluminum or stainless steel or something and make your own water tank. Then you can put whatever size bulkhead you want. I don't mind over-speccing the pump so much because, like I said, you can use it for drafting and refilling other tanks and stuff like that. So, yeah.